All right. 3 years ago, I started a virtual admin agency for cash based practices. And I taught hundreds of admins how to take a first phone call, how to use this nice little thing called a sales script that I thought was absolutely perfect. The problem was they were not scheduling nearly as many patients as they needed to. They were getting a ton of cost and insurance objections, and they just quite frankly couldn't follow the script. But all of that changed, and we started getting our clients way better results. And the results in my own cash practice skyrocketed when we changed all of that. And so by the end of this training, I'm going to teach you why I got rid of our sales scripts and really what we use now instead. And so by the end of this, I promise you're going to get less insurance objections on the phone. You're going to get more patients actually scheduled. And those patients are actually going to show up and want to complete a plan of care with you. And so, why the heck did I get rid of our sales script, right? Sales scripts are helpful, they're good to start, and a portion of our phone calls are still absolutely scripted. However, 99% of our phone call is really free flowing, but we use something I call a syntax or a framework now. And so, the only two parts of our phone calls that are actually scripted are the first part of the phone call, just to get somebody, overcome their insurance objections right out of the gate, and at the very end, so that they know exactly what it looks like to work with us. And there's no surprises when it comes to being out of network. There's no surprises when it comes to, cost and those type of things, and we get them framed up for the plan of care. But the 99% of our phone call, very free flowing, very wide open. And the reason for that is quite frankly, sales scripts just suck and front desk are very poor at following them. And so the reason I don't like them is because most of the time you get a ton of pushback from your front desk because they think they sound like a robot, right? They're just like, I just can't read off of this. And so, how many times I talk to practice owners all the time where they hand their front desk a script or they download the one from our school group or something. They hand it to their front desk and they're like, "Go execute this," and it's like, well, are they actually like executing that? And it's like, no, of course they're not. And so the big problem with that is now I've handed this script over. I've expected them to follow it, and they don't even feel good about it, right? They're just like, I sound like a robot, and so now what happens is they just don't follow it altogether. And the thing that you think is great is they're spending actually no time actually following it, and so now you end up with a lot of strife potentially. You'll either micromanage them, or you'll just not manage them at all, and then you get a ton of underperformance. And somebody calls in and asks about insurance, they have no idea what to say, and they spend 2 or 3 minutes getting to know the patients, and then they're dropping the price of your cost, and the patient's like, wow, that's way too expensive, right? And so now I've got a bunch of patients who actually aren't scheduling like they need to. And these scripts, they're good, but oftentimes they don't ask the right questions, right? They only focus on kind of cookie cutter things to say, and certainly that's going to capture 75% of the things. However, if you got somebody who, let's say somebody's a big time talker on the phone and they just give you these really long stories, now like the questions kind of don't like your admin gets real unsure of what to ask to actually have a conversation with them. Or on the flip side, you get somebody who's not a real big talker on the phone, and they give you like these kind of 1, 2 word like responses, and you're just peppering them with questions. How word is that, right? It's like, we having a conversation here right now, or like, are you just playing 21 questions with me? And now it really turns that potential client off, and their red flags, their sales resistance is up big time, right? Or same thing with that big time talker. They feel like they've been interrupted 4 or 5 times, and now I don't even know what's going on with this person, right? And it misses the true point of what that phone conversation is all about, anyways. And when we miss the true point of what that conversation is, which is, hey, what's your problem? Is this something we can help you with? And then let me tell you how we can actually help you solve the problem that you have and actually get back to the goal that you want. Once we actually do that, now the sales resistance, the cost, the insurance objections, all that stuff is obliterated simply because we had a robust enough conversation. Not, hey, I peppered someone with 5,000 questions to actually get back to what we want to do. And so you'll get to both ends of the spectrum. Somebody will either follow it way too closely, more often than not, they don't follow it at all. And when they don't follow it at all, or they're just kind of following it to a T, you're not scheduling as many people as you need to be actually scheduling. And so here's what we actually do. We kind of ditch the script. Again, the only portion that's scripted in our phone call, the first like opening line to get out of the insurance question, and the very end, probably the last 5 minutes of the phone call, letting the patient know how it is that we do things, right? Maybe 10 minutes, depending on any questions that might pop up. But all of that stuff, otherwise in the middle, is completely unscripted, and we use what I call a syntax or a framework, right? And a framework is just that, right? It's, hey, here are the three areas that we need to cover on this discovery call, right? What's the person's problem? What is the person's goals? And ultimately, how do I actually, do I need to create doubt in their mind, or do I need to, help push them up to the idea that we can actually help them? Those are kind of the three sections of the phone call. And we use that framework and we ask questions based on what it is that that person's telling me. And the framework is much more about active listening. We just kind of let the conversation flow and go with what the person's telling me, as opposed to constantly interrupting them. Where, hey, you were just talking about working out, but ultimately you want to know if they've seen a doctor, and then now you're just bouncing all over the place with this potential person. And like, that's super rough, right? That's like, it feels disjointed. You're not getting the information you need. Patient's kind of weird. It's like you were just talking to me about my goals, and now you're asking about my family. Like, this is weird. Like, what are we talking about? And ultimately, when we're not active listening, we're not getting the information that we need. We're just missing the boat. And the big thing that's most important for these discovery calls is to find what is the problem. And that's what these syntax is all about. Is, hey, how do I find the problem? And why is that problem a problem? How is it getting in the way and affecting their current life? And then ultimately, where does this person want to go, right? What are their major goals that they have? And why is that goal important to them? And when we can actually dive into those things, now all this other stuff doesn't matter. And we're just having a conversation back and forth. It's like I'm at a coffee shop and I'm getting to know the person on the phone. And now it sounds like the admin's more engaged, the person on the other line's more engaged, and they feel like they understand each other a little bit better. The person who's going to buy from you is the person who understands what it is you guys do, but more importantly, they feel like you understand them, right? And when they get their entire story out and you guide them with careful questions, now I can care less about the cost and insurance stuff, right? Because now I'm bought into what it is that we want to do, and your admin feels like he or she's just having a good, solid conversation. Now their work feels much less pressured. It feels more empowering, and they feel like they're connecting with patients at a much deeper level. And so that's exactly what we switched over to. Ditch your sales script, maybe script one or two small elements, dive deep into that discovery using a syntax or a framework. If you need a sales script or a framework, I will link our school group below. You are welcome to join into that, where you will find all of the information as it relates to our exact frameworks that we're using. And then lastly, now that you know exactly how to have conversations with people, maybe you need to find quality front desk talent. Take a look at some of the next videos in our training here, and that'll help you find the type of talent that you're looking for.